My apologies, I had a bit of extra mouthwash in my mouth, so I had to get rid of it, you know? But anyways, hello, salutations, what up, how you been? Oh, you've been good? Oh, that's, nice to hear. Anyways, so today we're gonna be learning about fathering children, not mothering children, because I'm not a female. I can't speak from experience on mothering children, so I won't be teaching you that. But anyways, I do have experience in fathering, like I said, so I will be teaching you about it because I have raised over 24 families, only 5 of which I had to abandon. And now I know what you're doing. You're sitting there and you're thinking, oh, what do you know about raising children? I bet you don't even know the first step. And to that idiotic and not to mention incorrect statement, I say, no, you are wrong. The first step to fathering children is manufacturing one, which unfortunately you do need a female for. But luckily for me, I'm extremely hot. I mean, I pick up girls on a regular basis. Why, I remember just last week, I saw a particularly pretty female specimen. So I approached her, and and I told her, hey, I thought you were very pretty, and I was wondering if you'd maybe like to hang out at some point. And after I said this, she looked up at me and she said, no. Luckily, she didn't have a say in the matter. So now that you've acquired yourself a partner and you've performed a mating ritual with them, you have now acquired a child. So there will be 4 sections to this tutorial. The first one is basic care, the second one is pre-puberty, the third one is post-puberty for males, and the fourth one is post-puberty for females. Pre-puberty is basically the same thing for both males and females because neither of them have yet realized that they have a weapon of mass destruction hanging in between their legs. So I'm just going to lump those 2 sections together. Anyways, now that we've cleared all that up, it's time to get to the first step, basic care. Basic care entails doing things like feeding them, getting them enrolled in the school system, getting them vaccinated, etc. Let's start with getting them fed. I personally recommend chewing their food up for them and then feeding it to them like they're a baby bird, because when they're younger, this will save you the money that you would have to spend on baby food, and when they get older, it gives you an excuse to make out with your daughter. Now let's talk about schooling needs. Go ahead and buy your child a thermos and fill it with corrosive acid. Filling the thermos with corrosive acid is necessary because if your child gets bullied in school, and somebody takes their lunch, you can listen to your child with a smirk as they tell you about how Connor from school slowly turned into a pile of goop. Now let's worry about getting your kids vaccinated. If you don't want to get your kids vaccinated and you're anti-vax, have fun trying to pull a smirk because Connor won't be the only one who slowly turns into a pile of goop. Now let's move on to the second step, pre-puberty. This step is full of screaming, kicking, and blissful ignorance. What do I mean by blissful ignorance, you may be wondering? Well, why don't I give you an example? My 8-year-old son that I'm currently raising has a bad habit of removing all of his clothes and then riding the family dog as if it's some sort of stallion. If this happens, there's no way that you can capture and reclothe your child by means of chasing them around. And if you think that you can capture them, you're not fit to raise a child because you're basically clinically insane. That dog is accelerating to speeds never before seen by man. Instead, begin putting up tripwires all around the house. This will cause your child to crash their vehicle, and they will then get sent flying across the room. If this occurs in your household, you need to let your child know that this is improper, and to let him know that he should never do it again. To punish them, just cut off their food supply. This works whenever I use it. Now we will set foot upon step 3, post-puberty for men. So imagine this. You wake up in the morning and having the previous night tucked your 5'2" son into bed and prepared him for school, you tell him good night and that you love him, and then you go to bed yourself, and then you wake up and you go to wake him up. But when you go in their room, you have nothing but questions. Questions like, where did my son go? I was tucking him in last night. Why is he not here? Who is this large figure sitting in my child's bed, and why does he have a lump in his throat? And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but That thing is your child. This stage is difficult because your son now has the gall to defy you. So now, you've got to teach him that defiance is the worst possible thing he could have ever thought to do. Go out and purchase yourself a pair of brass knuckles. You will then go home and lock yourself, along with your son, in a 10 by 10 feet room with 2 chairs inside of it. Stare at your son. If he says anything, ignore him. If he tries to stand up, grab his head and push him back down. After 3 minutes of silence, speak up and tell him, "You will bear no children until you move out." If he says no, put on your brass knuckles and give him a right hook. If he says anything along the lines of, "What the heck," give him another right hook. If he says anything other than a word that agrees with your statement, hit him with a right hook. After he agrees with your statement, set him back down in the chair. If he tries reasoning with you, ignore him. If he tries to stand up, hit him with a right hook. Stare at him for another 3 minutes, and then speak up. Tell him, "You will now be the one to replace Grandpa's IV bag every day." If he says no, repeat the process given in question 1. Never use a left hook on him. The left brass knuckle is just for show. By the time you're finished with your son, he should now be quiet, well-mannered, and mildly bruised. The 2 demands that I listed are the only required ones. If you have anything else you want from him, go ahead and demand them. The 4th step we will be going over is post-puberty for females. This part is great because your daughter starts to look like your wife now, and it makes it all the more better when you start to baby bird feed her. However, this part comes with another issue. Men. Other hormonal teenagers are going to start flirting with your daughter, and you can't use the technique you used on your son for her because people actually care if women have bruises. Instead, if your daughter asks you if her new boyfriend can come over for dinner, tell her yes. After giving her your response, proceed to purchase every firearm you can possibly find, and then mount them on a hard-to-avoid wall in your house. This will ensure that he sees them. At dinner, be sure to stare directly into his eyes as you baby bird feed your daughter. Doing this will express dominance. And there you have it, the 4 steps to raising a child. However, there is still one thing you need to acknowledge. Mistakes. Mistakes are when your child goes down a terrible path that there is no coming back from. First things first, if your child begins purchasing body pillows and katanas, they are slowly becoming a weeaboo. If this happens, lock them in the basement before abandoning the family. Now don't worry, I know what you're doing. I know that you're probably sitting there thinking,
Hey, wait a minute. Isn't that a bit extreme?
and if you're thinking that way, lock them in the basement, but don't abandon the family yet. Eventually, you'll hear a soft and somber knock at the door. Don't answer it. Eventually, you'll hear it. Your weeaboo child will begin saying, "Cammy hammy hey," to try and break down the door. If I have to explain to you why this is a red flag, go ahead and lock yourself in the basement as well. The next mistake that could occur is the biggest possible mistake. Imagine this. You walk into your child's room and, you just want to tell them that dinner's ready, You just want to tell them dinner's ready. But then, you see it. The fursuit. If your child has chosen to become a furry, go ahead and apply for a firearm permit. Do not lock them in the basement as you cannot risk their escape. Lure your child into the backyard using a can of baked beans, and then put that firearm permit of yours to work. Anyways, that's actually all I have for today. So, if you enjoyed, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, any of that. I won't force you to. I don't want to force you to. I might have to, but jokes aside, thank you for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I hope you have a good day. And tune in next week when I teach you how to reconstruct that pesky gerbil of yours. Thank you and have a good day.